This is an Eye on Annapolis bonus podcast.
Well, I'll tell you, Ray Weaver is an international troubadour, and unfortunately, we only get to see him, hear him a few times every year. He gave up the good life in the Dina for the good life in Copenhagen, and I'm not sure anybody can blame him. But this morning, Ray Weaver joins us on what I believe to be the longest distance podcast we've ever done from Copenhagen. Good morning, Ray. How are you? I guess it's afternoon, right?
Yeah, John, it's afternoon for me, but I'm sort of, universal. So whatever time zone anybody's in, how you doing?
That's right. I'll tell you, I think the last time I ran into you face to face was one evening down at Pirates Cove when you were about ready to step up on stage and entertain the crowds down there in Galesville when you last went through town.
I think that's exactly right. We saw you down there, yeah.
I tend to avoid the whole St. Patrick's Day just because it tends to be a crazy kind of a situation that I can't,
yeah, I can't imagine why.
Well, as I get older and more cantankerous, it just sort of goes with the crowd.
I do it every year, and every year I say, not going to do this again, not going to do it again, and then it is because as you might recall, I do like a 12-hour day at the venue we're going to be talking about at the Killarney House. I start in the morning and don't end until they close the place out, and at my age, it's kind of like, why am I doing this? But I just have so much fun. It's just so much fun.
Love does trump all, I'll tell you.
Yes, it does.
You are regularly here to perform around St. Patty's Day and maybe one or two other times throughout the year. I know you still have family over down in Nashville. And so what's coming up at Killarney House on September 19th is truly a limited engagement. And I'm excited to see what you got in store for us on the 19th.
Well, the thing is, as I mentioned, I do the St. Patrick's Day thing, but I have, mentioning being 67 these days, I have really diminished my normal pub tours where I would come out and do, the pub tours, and you would see me at the Pirates Cove or maybe at, Killarney House or Stan and Joe's or some of the other great venues there in town. And I've been focusing a lot more on my own songwriting and my own music. So the 19th sort of comes up right after the Annapolis Songwriters Festival. And what I'm going to do with Killarney House is a show I've done before. I actually did it at the Ram's Head right after coronavirus stuff. I did it at Ram's Head, and we sold the Ram's Head out. So that was great. And we've done it at Killarney and sold out there too. It's a show called A Father's Heart, which is loosely based on a book that I wrote about articles that I'd written for Chesapeake Family Magazine and a couple of other magazines about family and growing up in the area, growing up in the Baltimore, Washington area, specifically, as you said, in Pasadena and Annapolis and that area. And my family, my father, trying to keep a finger on that lifestyle that was very much based on rural and growing up on a farm and going hunting and that kind of stuff, and keeping that sort of value system alive without getting too much in the politics of all of the stuff. It was just, that's the way we live. This is what we did. This is why I do some of these things now and don't do some of these things now. But basically family and that kind of thing. So the show is kind of like monologues. Well, it's not kind of a monologue, a story, maybe something from the book, maybe something that came into my head that day, and then a song that relates to it. So that's what the show is on the 19th at Killarney House.
Well, you're sort of wrapping up all of your talents into one. I mean, you're a singer, you're a songwriter, you're a poet, you're a writer, you're bringing it all, storyteller, you're bringing it all together. And, I did get a chance to see it at the Ram's Head, and that was just before COVID, or was that just after COVID? Because it was
just after COVID. It was just after COVID. We'd all lived through it, and they were doing the folks, Chris and the people there at the Ram's Head, God bless them. They were doing some local acts and some acts that maybe didn't have national legs because a lot of national people weren't touring yet. So I can't remember if they reached out to me or I reached out to them. But anyway, I just said, hey, why don't we try this show? And I was hoping sell 50 tickets maybe or something. And lo and behold, it caught. And next thing you know, we had a full room. And if you saw it that night, then you saw a very frightened troubadour, because I was stunned at the response and stunned that there were so many people there. and also highly, highly gratified because it worked very well.
It was beautiful. And again, September 19th, it's from 7 to 9 or 7 to 10 p.m.
Well, it says Lucy 7 to 9, but anybody knows me, John. Like just now, you're trying to talk to me, and all I do is run on. So it could be 7 to the next day, but it'll start at 7 and when I'm done talking and done singing. So
fair enough. But you can get tickets at KillarneyHousePub.com, and
that's right.
I will say that I go get them now just because this will sell out fast. Because Killarney House is really actually a really cool little venue that you don't normally think of as a music venue, aside from some guy in the corner playing the guitar in the bar, which you have done.
I've done that very many times, yeah. But they have remodeled that restaurant room, and it's lovely. They have a very, very nice whiskey bar in there now, and they remodeled. And they have specialty acts in there. They do have the Wolf Tones in there. They have I've been in there one or two other times, and the sight lines are really, really good. And it's also intimate enough. It'll put you in the mind, John, not to date you or me, of some of the great acoustic venues back in D.C. back in the day, where you just went in, 85, 100 people, and you were seeing, could have been Lyle Lovett early in his career or somebody like that, and you just got so close to the artist, and you really it's a great vibe in there. It's really, really a great vibe.
Right. Well, I'll tell you, you mentioned that you're going to be at the second annual Annapolis Songwriters Festival the weekend before, and boy, that's sort of a real opposites attract kind of a thing here, because you've got an intimate show at Killarney House versus up on a stage, and I'm not sure exactly what venue you're going to be performing at for the Annapolis Songwriters Festival, but you're going to have exposure to thousands. So I imagine the shows are going to be totally different.
I don't know, actually, because I'm going to probably be, I haven't seen my schedule yet, and you never sort of, everything is kind of based around the big national and international acts that are coming in, and then local and regional writers. Even though I'm an international act, at home, I still am kind of looked at as a regional writer, maybe not the guy that's still living in Glen Burnie, but a guy that's basically from the hometown. So I'll more than likely be at maybe Ram's Head or the Maryland Inn, or last year I did a show at the Ram's Head, and then a couple of other shows here and there with other writers. It'll be an in the round kind of situation where it'll be myself and maybe another writer or two, and then we'll just swap songs. And there is no chance to get that intimate kind of thing, because when you're doing in the round and when you're doing that kind of thing, one of the things that you really, say in that kind of thing is, don't bore us, get to the chorus. We don't really need the story tonight. If the song's working, it'll tell the story on its own. So that, in that kind of situation, it's going to be a little bit more restrictive, but also allows all of us writers up there to get. Last time I did one with Doug Segree, and Dean Rosenthal and myself, and the three of us, you could not have a broader spectrum of music. Doug being much more pop-oriented, myself being folk and country or whatever, and then Dean being the great blues guy. So we all three had our chance to shine, and man, was it great. It was wonderful to have all these three disparate, and the audience was just right there with us. Really, really, because it's an audience that comes in for songwriters, so they were really appreciative of what everybody was doing. So that's what it is. It's just a great, and I'm just so glad that it's kind of born out of the Key West Songwriting Festival, and now it's up in Annapolis, and it worked really, really well last year, better than anybody expected, and I think it's going to be just as great this year.
Sure, it's now an annual thing. It'll be great, but you also perform with the Irish Restaurant Company, which they have Galway Bay, they've got Pirates Code, they've got Killarney House, and they've got Brian Baru, and you are a regular at all of those when you are here, if not playing, drinking, or eating. Yeah. And what is your connection to these guys, to Anthony and Michael and everything else? What attracts a songwriter and Ray Weaver to these venues?
Well, when you and I met, if you recall, I was working for the city at the time, and I had moved from Denmark with my wife and kids to the U.S., and I was essentially, for as much as anybody that does what I do for a living, I was retired. I was like, you know what, I don't want to go out, and I don't want to do this pub thing anymore, and I don't want to. But I was working for the city, and then you would have, Vince from Castle Bay and Mike and Anthony, the guys would be coming by, and we'd be doing city business. And I was like, yeah, great, I'll come by. So one St. Patrick's Day, and I can't even remember now, but it's been quite a while. 20 years ago minimum. One of my friends came to me, a fellow that was he did a lot of stuff out at Camp Les at the time, Brian Madden. Brian came to me and he said, "Hey, they're looking for a guy to sing at the Killarney House on St. Patrick's Day." And I was like, "No, not doing that. Nope, retired." He said, "No, no, no. All you have to do is sit out in the hallway there with your acoustic guitar and sing a few songs for the crowd that's kind of sitting out there and wants it quieter." No, don't want to do it. Anyway, I never can say no to a chance to go out and sing. So I did. I went out and I sang. I met the fellas. The fellas liked what I did, and the rest is a long and fun history that, I kind of just liked really being out there. I liked Anthony, Michael, all the folks that work there, and they have been absolutely wonderful to myself and my family. When as you and I talked about the last time we did a podcast together, when my daughter Savannah and we were trying to get her home from the mental institution in the U.S. to get back over here to Denmark. They held benefits. They raised money. They have been some of my biggest supporters, which is why I want to do this show at Killarney House with the Irish Restaurant Company.
That's fantastic. And I'll tell you, Brian Madden's a great guy too.
Oh, Brian's a terrific guy.
He's my Christmas morning buddy. We always go to the Lighthouse and do breakfast. We serve breakfast on Christmas mornings.
Brian is proof that fellas that love each other, and Brian and I are very, very close, can be on completely opposite ends of the political spectrum and still be best friends. And I've known Brian, and he's also been big with me and my family. He knows my children, he knows my wife, and I know he's just a good man. He's a good fellow. And
the world needs more of those friendships, despite the political opposites.
So. Really
That's for sure. Well, the proceeds of your show, and again, September 19th, tickets at KillarneyHousePub.com, are going to benefit an organization called MBulk. Did I say that right?
Yep, MBulk. I'd actually have to ask my wife what that means, but it has to do with light bringing. It has to do with bringing light. As you and I discussed, and as you know, we don't make any secrets of it in my house. My daughter Savannah suffers from mental illness, lots of diagnosis. We don't have to go into all of that, but anyway, and when she was first going through it, and when the family was first going through it, one of the things that happens with mental illness is that a lot of people, a lot of families, especially mine at the time, we just felt like, man, nobody's ever been through this before. How do you do this? How do you live through this? We don't have any support. I mean, we're alone here. I remember the great Ron Powers wrote a book called Nobody Cares About Crazy People, because both of his sons had been through it. And he called mental illness a no casserole disease, meaning that if you have a kid that's sick with cancer, or if you break your leg or something like that, or somebody, people come by your house with a casserole or some bread or some fried chicken and say, "Here, we know you're having a hard time." But if you have mental illness, man, everybody stays away. Nobody wants to come. Nobody wants to talk about that. So we felt alone. And as we moved through this process, as Savannah got better, as we got her home, we got her treatment, my wife, Lotte, decided to walk away from an extremely lucrative six-figure job and say, I don't want to do this. I want to dedicate my life to helping other mothers, especially at the beginning, other mothers realize you're not by yourself. You're not alone. So she started a foundation, MBulk, which basically has information, seminars, talks, classes to help people now, not just moms, because she's had a couple of dad groups and stuff that are impacted with their children having mental illness. And she lets them know that they're not alone, and she gives them some of the tools that she's learned. She's trained therapist and trained in that work to help them know that they're not alone, and here are some tools that you can use to help you get through this. So that's what MBulk is all about. It's simply that, and everything that I make on these shows goes into the foundation.
That's fantastic. And, I'm so glad. I mean, we've got a lot of ways to go, but I'm so glad that the mental illness is starting to become a conversation that we can have.
I think so.
20 years ago, oh God, he's crazy. Put him away.
Exactly.
And that's not the answer to it.
No, not at all. Not at all.
That's not the answer to it. By the way, you mentioned your wife, and I realized we are friends on Facebook, and I happen to notice that you said it was your anniversary recently.
Yes, it was. Yeah, yesterday. Yeah.
So happy anniversary to that. And I've got to say that I'm surprised that roofie you slipped her 20 some odd years ago probably hasn't worn off yet, but it's
you're going to get both of us in trouble with that, man.
But
statute of limitations has run out anyway, so that's all.
But I'll tell you, if anyone can figure it out, what does the future hold for Ray Weaver? Are you still going to be?
As I said, I really am. I'm officially a pensionist, so there's a lot of ways, but I'm working, and I really want to concentrate on my own writing and my own songwriting and make that the focus of what I'm doing. God knows I will never lose my love for being out in a good pub somewhere with an acoustic guitar singing great songs. One of the things I've always thought about myself as a writer, one of the things I've always said, I never want to get so egotistical or so arrogant that I don't recognize the quality of all the great songwriters, Jackson Browne, Chris Christopherson, all Bob Dylan, all the people that, I'm always going to love their songs, and I'm always going to want to sing their songs to someone. They're what opened up my eyes to, until I heard Bob Dylan, I was bound and determined I was going to be third baseman for the Baltimore Orioles when Brooks retired. I don't think that would have worked out. So, and my dad, may he rest in peace, was convinced that Dylan had ruined my whole life. But for me, it was kind of like, it gave me that. So I'm always going to love that. But right now I'm focusing on my own music and my own stories. I want to do this show. I want to get, and I sure want to see people, and I want to be out there, but not, again, being honest about things. I'm in the midst of pretty serious depression myself, so I'm careful about what I'm doing and what I'm saying I'm going to do. So right now, it's all about doing my own music and my own songs, and just building up that presence and kind of saying, yeah, I'd love to see you at your pub, but can we do this show this way?
Right. Well, I'll tell you, if anybody would like to get a little bit of a dose of Ray, your website is weaverwrites.com, and that's WEAVER writes.com. Mm-hmm. It has all your music, your poetry, your musings, your book, and pretty much everything there. And you can follow him in all the social places that are always there. But the best way to see Ray is probably to see him live, and that's going to be September 19th from 7 to 9, 10, 11, 12, maybe October 3rd. But September 19th at Killarney House up in Davidsonville, a wonderful venue for food, for whiskey, and for music. KillarneyHousePub.com is their website. Mm-hmm. You can get tickets right there. They are only $20, and it does go to a great organization that is doing a lot of good work. Ray, it's always good to speak to you. I look forward to catching up off of FaceTime at the Songwriters Festival, and of course when we have an evening with Ray Weaver on the 19th. And I guess you're getting ready to plan your trip out. It's only a couple months away.
Yeah, I am. I'm actually kind of looking at. I do have. There's an earlier show of that I'm doing in Annapolis at King of France, the old King of France Tavern, which is kind of funny because literally that's where it all started for me.
I am so excited that this is coming back.
When dinosaurs were roaming the earth, but that one is sold out. So I'm really focused on the Killarney House one, and it's just so great. And of course, the Annapolis Songwriting Festival. It's just such a blast. I'm going to be, really deeply involved with helping people out. And as I told Chris and Julie and some of the other organizers, look, I'm not particularly smart, but I'm pretty strong. So if you need something carried or put somewhere, I'm your guy. So it's like, it's just going to be, and hanging around with great writers. Last year I got to meet people not only that are my contemporaries, but people that I've admired my whole life, and sat down and hung with them and went, hey, they're just regular guys and girls, they're just people. And we had a few drinks. And so that was, it's just it's going to be a great vibe. I plan on getting there probably, I would say around the 10th or so, and then staying through my show and maybe a day afterwards. Because I'll be in Nashville the month before, and then some other stuff going on the month after. So, yeah, I'm going to get back in the swing of things. I'm just taking a long kind of summer off right now, and it's been my anniversary, and we've been traveling and just enjoying family right now. But we're getting back in the swing of things starting next month. So
fantastic. Well, before we say goodbye, just a real quick question. If all of a sudden they call you up and say, Anthony calls up and says, "Hey, Ray, we've got a larger stage. We need another person on stage with you on the 19th. Dead or alive, who's going to be on stage with you?"
Oh, you mean anybody that I could pick from the whole?
Yep, the whole.
Oh, man. I would normally say Bruce Springsteen, but since Springsteen on Broadway, he stole from me and he does my show there. I would probably say, of course, and this is not going to surprise you or anybody else, John, it would have to be Jackson Browne.
Yeah, fantastic. Good choice. Good choice. Ray Weaver, thank you so much for your time today, all the way from Denmark. KillarneyHousePub.com for tickets, September 19th, 7 to 10 p.m. WeaverWrites.com. And you get a little taste of that, and I'll make sure that we put some of that in the show notes as well. And I can't wait to see you in about a month and a half, I guess.
Yeah, looking forward to it, John. And if you go to WeaverWrites.com, one of the links there is a link to a 30-minute performance that I did for a church a couple of years back, which gives you a little taste of what the whole show will look like. Of course, it's been updated. There's a lot of new songs, new stories, but you'll get an idea of what it feels like. So,
fantastic. Thanks so much, Ray.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, Billy's all jacked up on some junk he got from the dock. Me, I ain't touching that stuff. He's a tops card reader. Sometimes he's a bleeder. Last night left him a little rough. On the city dock, singing a song. The cops said, "Boys, move along. The yacht club ain't into your noise." So we slipped down Eagle Alley with t-shirts out, poured into a waterfront joint. Everything's gonna be alright. It's a nap time Saturday night. At Charlie's West Side, she's crazy about Telluride. Won't give me the time of night. We sit and watch Dave and John to see what they got going on, but man, we never get it right. We were feeling kind of fuzzy when we headed into Buzzards and watched the nudies get on a girl. Hey babe, I play guitar, I wanna be a big star. You ought to give a poor boy a whirl. Everything's gonna be alright. It's a nap time Saturday night. The cops down on West Street, they're all dead on their feet. They've already had a long night. From the Buzzards down to Middleton's crazy stuff been going on, and all them frat boys ever wanna do is fight. Headed down Ritchie Highway, that's Route 2 to you, 50 to 301. Look at that sexy spark from that Millersville trailer park, but I think she's down the ocean, huh? Sunrise over the academy, it was just old Billy and me, two world-class drag-out kings. We'll do the blue-collar sack lunch all week until we punch out and see what next weekend brings. Everything's gonna be alright. It's a nap time Saturday night. Everything's gonna be alright. It's a nap time Saturday night.
This has been a bonus podcast from Eye on Annapolis. Please visit us at eyeonannapolis.net. Follow us on Facebook at All Annapolis and on Twitter at Eye on Annapolis. And if you haven't subscribed to the Daily News Brief podcast, go for it. And all of your local news will be delivered to your phone, tablet, or smart device by 6 a.m. every Monday through Friday.